Third news topic of the week. Okay, so obviously it's Ramageddon. There's a huge supply shortage of memory chips of all descriptions. And this is going to have an impact on the availability of consumer electronics, everything from, our PC parts, I guess even TVs. Anything that has memory is going to be impacted to a certain degree. I guess by extension, it means that the amount of products available will be lower. And also, by extension, the products that do get out there will be more expensive. That's kind of like the basics, right? It's a given, bearing in mind that the reports that OpenAI have bought up 40% of the raw materials to make memory seem to be on the level. This has manifested most recently with a video that was produced by Hardware Unboxed, where they're saying that the 5070 Ti has been killed off. I've actually updated that headline looking at it now. The 5070 Ti has maybe been killed off. Mm-hmm. Basically, they had comments from ASUS saying that the 5070 Ti is not planned to be restocked. And by extension, the 5060 Ti 16GB model may also be similarly killed off. The stuff that followed, well, the first thing I did was basically to contact NVIDIA and ask for comment, right? Because it's the sort of thing you do. The comment was, demand for GeForce RTX GPUs is strong and memory supply is constrained. We continue to ship all GeForce SKUs and are working closely with our suppliers to maximize memory availability. Kind of like suggesting that, yes, the existing lineup will remain, but they are acknowledging that memory supply is constrained. Then there was a series of tweets that Hardware Unboxed has put out, which are basically, it's crazy stuff, really. ASUS, first of all, sort of agreeing with NVIDIA, but not rowing back on its original statement about the 5070 Ti. And then a further clarification from ASUS, which is basically rowing back everything that they said in the first place. A kind of bizarre situation here. Alex, what do you make of it?
Well, I do not doubt that Hardware Unboxed were told these things by ASUS at all. And actually, at CES, you hear things and you hear that maybe the how do you call them? The not the aftermarket, but like the actual producers of what do they call it? AIBs are maybe not wanting to produce those cards that have a less of a margin now on them in comparison to other ones. So a 5070 Ti has a very similar, if not the same memory config as a 5080, but you make a lot more money off of a 5080. So, you can imagine why in a time when memory is constrained in supply, why you'd want to shift to products that will get you essentially more profit. And that's kind of what it read to me and sounded like to me after watching the Hardware Unboxed video. It just sounded like, okay, so we have models that use 16 gigabytes that are less profitable than other models. So we're going to shift our production to those. And that sounded what it sounded like to me. But saying they were end of life from the ASUS perspective only really covers what ASUS is doing. They can't speak to other AIBs. And I think that was maybe the inaccuracy from ASUS to say it's end of life when they can't actually say that. Because that's not for, because there's other people than ASUS that make 5070 Ti's. In this case, though, it's a very awkward situation because the two GPUs they're talking about, the 5070 Ti and the 5060 Ti, do not have reference Founders Edition cards from NVIDIA. And that's something that I think NVIDIA should actually do. I think they should always have a Founders Edition for every card and then allow the AIBs to make, different versions of those reference designs if they really want to. As a result, the only place that is supplying them these type of cards are AIBs. And if they don't want to produce them for whatever reason, that means the card essentially ceases to exist, regardless of whether or not NVIDIA says the card exists, because they're not actually producing it at that point. So I feel like it's a very strange situation, and I have the greatest amount of respect for Hardware Unboxed to put this out there and then, because it does sound legitimate. But then the follow-up from ASUS and NVIDIA themselves just is like a little bit confusing, because NVIDIA is saying they're supplying the stuff, but at the same time, they're not actually the ones who produce this model at the end of the day. It's the AIBs who do. And I don't think the AIBs will then produce it if it's a supply constrained situation. So I feel bad for Hardware Unboxed here, because I think the video they put out was actually somewhat legitimate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were told those things, and ASUS has actually put their hand up and said, yes, we did say those things,
Yeah.
but within further context, this is what all of that means. So I'm just looking at Hardware Unboxed tweet here. Current timeline, they request 5070 Ti samples from ASUS and other partners. An ASUS PR rep looks into it, comes back, says they cannot provide 5070 Ti's due to supply constraints, saying their models are end of life, quote unquote. We ask ASUS to clarify whether 5060 Ti is end of life. They confirm it's end of life. We reach out to retailers to see whether they can purchase 5070 Ti stock for their stores. And to fact check ASUS claims, they say there is no supply. Given we have received an on-the-record statement from ASUS and confirmed the supply constraints with retailers, we publish a video with this information. Fair enough. I guess the thing possibly missing is a comment from NVIDIA, but then NVIDIA does produce its comment. NVIDIA says all GeForce SKUs are being shipped. ASUS reaches out to clarify that NVIDIA told ASUS that 5070 Ti is not end of life, but ASUS are streamlining some models, which kind of ties into what you're saying there, Alex.
Yeah.
They published a statement. ASUS reaches out again to provide another statement. Just quick sort of thing. Whenever anyone says they reach out, it typically means they sent an email. I don't know why they're just saying.
I love this idea of companies like essentially reaching out to, like, say, press, and like the companies are talking to each other but through a third party, right? They're like sending messages to someone else, be like, this is what we mean, and then they respond by sending it back to that third party as well, and it's just like
So to complete the timeline, ASUS reaches out again to provide another statement, the third statement we've received from ASUS, now saying 5070 Ti is not discontinued or end of life. This directly contradicts the original statement. We immediately request 5070 Ti samples. Now the cards are not discontinued or end of life, and we haven't heard anything back yet.
Yeah.
I think, the end of that tweet pretty much sums up where we are at the moment. At this point, the proof will be in the supply, as we can't tell you which of ASUS statements is truly accurate. We believe their 5070 Ti is heavily supply constrained to the point of effectively being killed, but we'll see whether that's truly the case across the next few months. And I think that's basically it, right? The proof of the pudding is basically as to whether you're going to be able to buy one of these things or not. And if you can buy them, the prices of what you're going to be paying for those cards. I mean, we kind of like said, I think it was probably in the Black Friday period last year, if you have the means and you want a new GPU, now is actually a pretty good time to buy, because the signs are not looking good. And this is kind of like an example of how things are not looking good. Now we're coming out the other side of Black Friday and into this sort of harsh new reality. And it is going to be all down to whether you can actually see these products on sale and available to buy. I think it's a really sad situation, but, this is a remarkable situation where 40% of the supply for any form of memory has just disappeared from the market. And I think the other thing, which, I did email NVIDIA yesterday asking for a statement and saying, look, I think people just want transparency. They want to know what's going on. And, they want to have sort of, firm information on whether they're going to be able to buy these products or not. I think part of the problem there is that there's so many sort of strata of companies involved in getting a GPU to market. So obviously, to begin with, you've got NVIDIA, and then you've got the AIBs like ASUS, MSI, and then you've got the retailers. So obviously, you've got two parts of of that particular equation there, where I guess it's all three. Thinking about it, all three of them can charge what they want for those individual components at each step, so before you actually get the products to the users. I still just think that there are certain, it's not like there's an Apple Mac Mini made by ASUS, which, comes with a custom cooler with a markup because it's not really needed.
Wait, do you want a ROG Mac? Sorry, ROG Mac?
ROG Mac.
The point I'm saying is that, you don't need one, right?
No.
And you're cutting out 2/3 of those potential price increases just by doing it yourself. And NVIDIA is doing it itself. It's just unfortunate that the models that are being discussed here, the 5070 Ti and the 5060 Ti 16 gig, are not made by NVIDIA. So there's no chance that it's not, that there is going to be like direct to market versions of those cards.
Yeah.
It's a mess, just like it was when cards released last year and you couldn't get one at MSRP, or the MSRP cards were very, very supply constrained. There just seems to be some sort of fundamental issue with the market, I think, where we've actually just had one golden window of opportunity to get these cards at great prices. Well, I say great prices, the prices where you actually expect to pay for them.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. John?
No, I mean, what else can I add to this? This is just like, I feel like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg here, actually.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, we're starting to see the effects of the current memory shortage. And I think, they're obviously playing PR tag here, trying to say, whoa, we're not ending anything here. And that's probably true. But if the supply isn't there, as he suggested, for the memory chips, then the cards won't be there. And I think this is just one of many product lines this is going to apply to. And it's gonna, I suspect over the next year, these prices are going to only increase. And I'm really wondering, like, this is genuinely a concerning trend right now, that's building up here for the PC gaming hobby, right?
Yeah.
Because like we've reached a point, I mean, we've already crossed this with consoles as well, right? Usually after 5 years, console prices go down, not up. They've gone up. PC prices, they're usually already more expensive. Now we're seeing them increase, and also scarcity increase. It's going to become more difficult to take part in the PC gaming hobby. And as Jeff Bezos sort of very much said out loud recently, like, this idea is like, I'm sure he would love it if, and other companies would love if you just move to the cloud. You shift your compute from your desk to the cloud. That sucks. We don't want that overall. But that's, I am slightly worried that this situation that is arising as local hardware prices continue to increase and scarcity increases, that more companies are going to be trying to convince people to switch to the cloud.
Right.
Once again. And I really don't want to see that become like the main focus of this.
Yeah, I think cloud's a good option if it's for you, right? I mean, as you say, GeForce Now is a very, very good product. Would it replace a desktop GPU? Probably not. I was just taking a quick look at Amazon, actually. You can still buy a 5070 Ti. It's $886. That's the MSI Ventus 3XOC, which was the card we actually reviewed and we understood to be MSRP, which was $750.
Right.
So prices are going up. The 5070 MSRP, $550, I believe. You can still get one for $575, a gigabyte one. I'm just looking at Amazon.com here. Newegg seems to, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the prices there, but there is a lot of resellers there that are adding, basically adding markup, which isn't a great situation. So, I still think it's, if you really want a 5070 Ti, you can get one, but you're looking at like a significant $100 plus premium. It is still cheaper than a 5080, mind you. It's just the way things are going to happen, right? It's just, constrained supply, higher prices. That's the way it always happens. John?
You shuffle around those numbers, 5070 Ti, do a little bit of fuzzy math there, and you end up with 750 Ti. We have to go back.
The goat.
It's time.
The goat.
That's how you fix the supply problem.
You re-release the 750 Ti.
Re-release the 750 Ti. We bring back 4K on a budget series and
with the 750
with 750 Ti. Wow.
Yeah,
with the 750 Ti.
They're going to release like a 6 gigabyte version of that or something with
Dude.
something so stupid.
I have got a 4 GB version of that. But, I was just thinking actually about the 750 Ti the other day. The reference cards that we got for review from NVIDIA are these lovely tiny little cards with a very discreet little cooler. And my 4 GB version of the 750 Ti is this kind of like dual fan monstrosity. And I guess that's the other thing, we have all of these sort of big coolers being strapped onto GPUs that are actually quite efficient and don't really need it. It's just, the whole sort of factory overclock thing. It's typically very, very tiny overclocks, and it's mostly about extra power that you can flood the card yourself compared to reference models, etc., etc. Never seems to make too much of a big difference, but they do command these massive price premiums. I'm just a fan of, good MSRP models, really, when you're looking at those sort of products. Anyway, I'm sure this situation is going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. And it looks like prices are starting to go up now. 5070 still looks attainable, which I think is good because I think the product's okay at MSRP. 5070 Ti, it's good at $750. 886, starting to get a bit uncomfortably close to 5080 MSRP at that point. But what's going on with the 5080? I haven't even looked at that, to be honest. Yeah, seemingly the higher end ones and the 16 gigabyte cards are the ones that are. Oh man, I made the mistake of putting in 5080 into Amazon.
Is it awful?
Well, I'm looking at prices from $1,268 up to $1,850. Which is almost
that's not good.
5090 territory. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Or it was 5090 territory.
Yeah, good
yes.
point.